You are welcome to this special edition of our program on Court TV. In today's edition, we are going to look at ways of proving the ownership of land. And basically, there are 5 ways of proving the ownership of land. And one of that 5 ways is that one is by traditional evidence. The first way of proving the ownership of land in Nigeria is by traditional evidence. You have to lead evidence in the traditional way to show that indeed the land in dispute is yours. Then the second way of proving the ownership of land is by documents of title. So when we are talking about the document of title, it's not the sales agreement or the conveyance. It's talking about the C of O or the right or the R of O. The C of O is certificate of occupancy, while the R of O is the right of occupancy. So if you want to prove the ownership of the land in dispute, you must prove by documents of title. The third way of proving the ownership of land is by various acts of ownership. The third way of proving the ownership of land is by various acts of ownership, numerous and positive, and extending over a length of time to warrant the inference of ownership. So you have to exercise the various acts of ownership for a longer period of time, which will make people to infer that indeed you are the owner of that particular land. So the fourth one is by proof of possession of the adjacent land. By proof of possession of adjacent land by circumstance which will render it probable that the owner of the adjacent land is indeed the owner of the land in dispute. The fifth one is by proof of long possession and enjoyment of the said land without interference. So these are the 5 ways of proving the ownership of land. As I said earlier, 1 is by traditional evidence. 2 is by document of title. 3 is by various acts of ownership. And 4 is by act of lawful enjoyment and possession of the land, while the 5th one is by proof of possession of the adjacent land by circumstance, which will render it probable that the owner of such land would in addition be the owner of the disputed land. So these are the various ways of proving the ownership of land. Before you go into the contents of land dispute, you have to consider which of these 5 ways will you rely on in proving the ownership. And the principle is very clear. It is not compulsory that you must prove the 5 concurrently. No. Proving one of these 5 ways is enough to prove the ownership of that land. So, if you don't have the traditional evidence and you don't have the document of title and you have not exercised any act of ownership on the land, or you have not enjoyed the land, or you have not been in possession of that particular land for a long period of time, or you are not the owner of the adjacent land, there is no point of you going into the contents of land ownership in Nigeria. So in our next edition, we are going to look at the ownership of land by the community and also the ownership of land by family, which is literally called family land ownership. So stay connected to our program as we are going to give the basic picture of the communal ownership and also the family land ownership in our next class. So as I always say, this class is not a legal advice. So if you need any legal advice, please consult your legal advisor for more clarification. So, and if you enjoy our program, please share to others. Don't hesitate also to press the notification button so that as soon as we drop any of our lectures or any of our videos, you should be among the first to see that particular video. I really appreciate you for being there. Always make a date with us on our program. Thank you and remain blessed.